Hello, welcome back to Stronger Roots, where we talk about the real, raw, and often hidden sides of family systems, trauma, and healing. Today, we have a very special guest with us, and Beth is going to tell us more about our special guest, Mandy.
Yes, we have Mandy Friedman with us today. She's from Clermont County, which is close to both of us and where we are, and does a lot of amazing work in our area. And I want to tell you a little bit about her to get started. She's a licensed professional clinical counselor, certified clinical domestic violence counselor, and clinically certified trauma professional. Mandy is the creator of an educational program, SNAP, Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities. This program teaches survivors and concerned and loved ones about the abusive personalities, targets of abuse, abusive relationships, and a life of recovery of abuse. Mandy is the director and supervisor at Clermont County Mental Health and a private custody evaluator. She specializes in treating survivors of cluster B personalities and those dealing with complex PTSD. As a survivor herself, she brings both clinical expertise and live experience to her work, offering trauma-informed coaching and recovery education for those healing from abuse. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you today.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Danielle. It's good to be here.
Good
I just
morning.
want to make a little clarification. The practice is Clermont Mental Health, and we're a private practice.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes can be confused with Clermont County.
Which is what I did. Confused
Well,
with that.
it happens a lot. It happens a lot. That we're not a community mental health center. We are a private practice, Clermont Mental Health. But I am from Clermont County. I live in Clermont County. And I named it Clermont Mental Health because I wanted to highlight the need for quality mental health care in our area. And we take a lot of clients that have Medicaid. We take all the Ohio Medicaid plans for the most part, and we wanted to provide a place where people can get that private practice experience and be treated well. And maybe sometimes they don't get treated as nicely in a community mental health center. I don't know. That might not
But
be
it's
as
so needed because even with the other work that I do, especially the insurances that you take, it is hard to find counseling, regardless of what situation you're in. It is hard in our county to find the appropriate things for trauma and things like that. So I did not know about this beforehand. So I've heard your name, but I'm so glad you're coming on to tell us a little bit more about that today.
Yeah, so we're going to jump right in, Mandy. So I know that you run these groups called SNAP, and can you tell us a little bit about what SNAP is, what that stands for?
Sure. So SNAP is Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities. And now it's available online through Udemy. Yeah, so I used to teach the classes in
Uh-huh.
person, and that might be where we met a while
Mhm.
back, maybe 2019
Yes.
might have been around the time that we met. So back then, before COVID, I was doing the classes in person. And then after that, I had them recorded, and now anybody can access it through Udemy. And we'll provide that link in the show notes here for the episode. But Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities, SNAP, it is an educational recovery program. I noticed that as I had been treating survivors, that educational piece was so important. And we don't get this kind of education as therapists, but also not as just regular old people. It's not something that's discussed. So many of these things are private things that happen behind closed doors that people are ashamed of and they don't speak about. And so, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the program was aiming for the psychoeducational piece where we're teaching people about abusive personalities. Who are they? How can you tell that someone
Yeah.
is? What is it? What does it look like? And also, really importantly, how did they get this way? Because our people, our peers are often we call empathic survivors, right? These are people that have often high empathy, and they're very curious about other personalities and why would someone act this way. That was me. that's how I got here, is that I myself was in a situation and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So I learned everything I possibly could. And this was before anybody was talking about narcissistic abuse. So I read all the books, I read the research articles, I found other professionals that were talking about it. And as I started to learn more and more, I started to see it more and more in the lives of my clients. And I recognized how that educational piece was so important in my life. And I wanted to be able to provide that for others. So then from there, we found that there's common features among abusive personalities and toxic personalities. There's also common features among targets, people that are targeted by abusive people. We also have our commonalities. Then there's common features of abusive relationships that you can see the same kind of patterns going on. Again, it's behind closed doors. No one's even said anything outside the house about it. And yet it's the exact same process happening in these relationships. And then finally, we found really amazing recovery pieces that if we follow these steps, there's a good likelihood that someone could really heal, recover, and move forward in life, and furthermore, protect themselves from further abuse. So the point of SNAP is all of those things. It's to teach you about it, help you heal, but also learn how to navigate abusive and toxic people as you encounter them in life, because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have one of your old documents of SNAP and the common features of abusive and toxic relationships. So I wanted to kind of go over the psychological warfare that we talk about. So coming out of the fog, realizing that like something is not right about this relationship, or I think I may have been in a narcissistic, abusive relationship. There's so many terms that go along with that, and so many common manipulation tactics that your mind kind of like shorts out when you start hearing about like, oh, that was purpose, somebody did that on purpose to, mess with me on that. So if you can kind of like maybe go through a little bit, we'll just kind of talk about like what is love bombing? What would you say is the definition of love bombing and how that works?
Great. Yeah, you give me the terms and I'll hand out a
Okay.
definition.
Okay.
All right. So love bombing, it's important to distinguish that love bombing takes the place of conversation. Love bombing takes the place of logical, rational thinking. It's meant to make us feel good and to set off our feel good chemicals. It's meant to make you shut up and stop asking questions. It's meant to make you not be mad anymore. It's meant to make you not look further into something and to do your due diligence. So love bombing in the beginning of a relationship feels amazing. And it almost looks like Hollywood. It looks like something you might see on television, like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And you feel swept away. But again, that the feel-good chemicals in your brain light up, and you're not being logical at this point. But many people have never been treated that way before, at the beginning of a relationship. And so they believe that this is evidence that this is how much this person loves you. So hence love bomb, right? Is that this is how much they love me, is they've done this, they've done this, they've done this. Well, in the beginning of the relationship, it's harder to pinpoint because, you kind of expect for there to be a lot of feel good times in the beginning. But when you really start to see it is during conflict, or if someone, an abusive person has done something wrong, they got caught, they cheated, they lied, they hurt someone. And instead of having a difficult conversation where we discuss the issues and the solutions to the issues, we love bomb instead. So that's how you know it's love bombing. It's because it'll be when the conversations are never had, the issues are never addressed. And also, if the love bombing happens and you don't respond the way that they expect you to, notice that all of a sudden they're not so nice. And very quickly will be irritated and angry with you, and even say something like, oh, I just did all this for you. I did this. And look, I came and I was nice. And I bought you this necklace and you don't even care. Like, well, 2 seconds ago you were sorry and doing all these really nice things, but the fact that I didn't react and go, oh, thank you, everything's fine now.
Yeah.
Now you're mad at me? That was a quick turnaround.
Right.
So to me, that's how we define love bombing. Is that, are we also, maybe somebody does get a lot of gifts. Great, it's a love language. Okay. But are we also talking about the issues? Is this person taking responsibility? And then if it's in the beginning of the relationship, have you asked the hard questions yet? What do you really know about this person? Have you put your detective cap on yet? Have you used the logical part of your brain? Or have you been all swept away in the feel good parts? Because that is often the dangerous thing, is that it's like, yeah, I did see that, but this other great thing happened. So it will make you overlook red flags, orange flags as well. Is that the love bombing so great that it's like this other thing's like, I don't even see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip a few of these, but, so another one would be like finding your emotional soft spots. How's that play out?
Yeah, so they find out the things that are tender for you, the things that you care deeply about, the things you're passionate about, or maybe something to do with your past, a trauma, or something that would normally bring shame, possibly, for someone. So say, for example, you had a best friend who passed away from cancer, and that was something very difficult that you went through. Or let's say you love wildlife and you donate to wildlife preservation organizations, and you're into pollinator gardens, or there's there are your soft spots, your tender spots, the things that someone who loves you, if they know these things about you, they encourage them, they learn about you and use it. For example, my mom loves pollinators and she's all about the pollinator gardens. So I got her a t-shirt with a bee on it, right? And I encourage her, and that's great, Mom, and it's beautiful. Butterflies and bees, wonderful, right? An abusive person would do something like spray pesticides on the pollinator garden, or talk about how you think you're some green thumb, whatever farmer, you should be in the house cooking dinner instead of out there, and that's disgusting, you're bringing that dirt in the house. They take the things that you should protect and preserve and to honor about someone, and they weaponize it. But first they have to find those soft spots. How do they do that? Maybe they'll talk about their soft spot.
Yeah.
They'll tell you about themselves, or someone else they know. Oh, yeah, this friend of mine does such and such. Oh, really? I'm into that too. And you think they're opening up and you're getting to know each other, but really you're just arming them with things that will be weaponized later.
What about word salad?
Word salad's great. And there's so many examples of word salad during certain periods of time on the national news channels, particularly starting in 2016, and a lot of it going on today, where it's just nonsense, things that are, if you follow it and you're trying to really understand what the person is saying, they're really saying nothing. And I like to go on YouTube and just type in examples of word salad, and you can find really funny videos of people like doing impersonations of word salad. But yeah, word salad is something that happens in organizations, institutions, corporations, leadership positions. Notice a leader that stands up and says a lot, but they said nothing. Word salad is meant to confuse people, and it's meant to make things murky and unclear, and we can just kind of throw certain words out there, and then whatever people piece together from that, it's what they do. And then you're like, but wait, I don't understand this one part. And then, but that's not what I said this. Yeah, but that would insinuate such and such. Well, not the way I meant it, you must have misunderstood. It just keeps things, let me just put it this way. Manipulative, narcissistic, abusive people are allergic to the truth. They don't want the truth to be stated. They don't want clarity. They don't want facts. And one of the first anti-fact statements that we heard was, alternative facts. And then that became something. There's no such thing as alternative facts.
That sounds like a oxymoron or something, right?
It is.
Alternative.
It is, but that
what
would
are you
be an
saying there?
example. Yeah, word salad, right?
Yeah.
Alternative facts. What do
Yeah.
you mean by alternative facts? Facts are facts, lady.
Mhm. Mhm.
But now
Well, it's interesting that you said even corporately too, because also when you're like, I'm an accountant, so being involved in so many different aspects of that in different companies and different, levels of management and different people with our clients and things, and even in a job, even prior to my having my own business, you run into people that they're very narcissistic, but they're trying to be the good person and they're always smiling, but yet they're putting that out there, and you know what they're doing. Well, now I know what they're doing. Back then I didn't know, but you know what they're doing and what they're saying. And there's not 1 ounce of truth behind it,
Just
but
like
they feel like they can
words
control
or
you with
something.
that.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to smoke and mirrors,
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
We're going to cloud the truth, because the truth is the kryptonite. We can't have facts. We can't have truth. And so word salad, it acts as a way of just making things very murky and unclear. And for someone who isn't the savvy listener, who isn't an active listener, who doesn't have critical thinking skills, or who's being abused, who is being gaslit. I know that's another word.
Yeah. We can talk about that next if you want.
Yeah, we can. The word salad acts in combination with all these other things to keep someone immobilized mentally, and confused. But often word salad is just used regular day to day, and the average person just picks up on whatever word they want to hear, and then they make whatever meaning they want to make of it, and they never even realize it was word salad to begin with. So it's really nice that, even though I get irritated sometimes at how some of the more common words like gaslighting, people get irritated. I get irritated that they get irritated that we're talking about it. Gaslighting, that's just like a pop, psychology term, and everybody gaslights. People get irritated by hearing the words, but I'm glad that we're saying these words and defining them. It's important that people know. Teenagers need to know about this.
Yeah.
We should all be educated about manipulation and things to look for as just part of safety. We learned stop, drop, and roll. Some people had to get under a desk and practice that, depending on what generation you were in. Now they're doing shooter drills, but we don't learn about healthy relationships.
That's one of my biggest complaints about school right now. Middle school, I have a middle schooler, and that is a rough place.
Ooh,
yeah.
The worst.
Middle school is horrible. The bullying and everything else. But then on the other side of, the other side of the work and stuff is the GL that I do. It's like I'm looking at this going, okay, if this kid is the one doing this, what's going on at home? Why is this kid doing this? And I see so many, even throughout my family and stuff, teenagers going into high school, getting into relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, and being controlled by this. Well, you're right. We're not teaching them because what they're living in at home is normal to them. So they then they kind of gravitate to that anyway. And when they meet someone else that's treating them the way they were at home, that's normal.
And I'm just going to say it. You aren't saying it. I'm saying it. In the school system, the school board's doing the same thing. The people in leadership in the communities are doing the same thing. So they don't want to teach about it either, because it's almost like if you're living in a family of alcoholics and you're the one that decides to get sober, that causes everyone else to have to look at their drinking.
Yep.
And they don't like that. So they're going to make fun of you that you're not drinking. Oh, she thinks she's better than us now that she doesn't drink, right? It's the same thing with this stuff. If they act allergic to it and irritated by it, it's probably because they want to protect it and continue to do it. And they don't want for people to understand that they're being manipulative.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting why we don't share this kind of information.
Yeah. So Mandy, tell us about gaslighting. Like, give us a simple term of that. Because when people say that, they're like, oh yeah, gaslighting, you hear it all the time. So what's a real term on that?
To me, what I define it as the denial of a shared reality And then maybe the second part of that definition would be with the intent to manipulate someone, that there's an intent here. And so I think that's important. But it's the denial of a shared reality. You saw it, I saw it, you know, I see behind you, you have, Danielle, you've got this lovely woman with her hand in a yoga pose of sorts. And you could say to me, that's not a statue of a woman. That's gaslighting. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lady. I mean, it looks like someone with breasts, at least, you know, like that's a female form behind you. And it's really beautiful and curvy, wonderful. And then you're like, no, that's a truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's gaslighting. And it sounds like you would easily be able to go, well, that's not true. But when gaslighting is usually used by institutions, groups, families, individuals, happens between two people, happens to an entire population or half of the population, right? There's a lot of gaslighting that goes on at all levels in our society where we see something. It was the largest inauguration crowd ever, was said. Largest ever.
Yeah.
It was. It was. No, it was not. Yeah. No, it was not. And we know that for a fact. We know other things that are facts, but we were standing at a podium saying it was the biggest ever, right? That's gaslighting on a large level. It could also be a situation where intimate partner abuse is happening, and this is an example from someone's story where someone backhanded someone else holding a glass of a beverage, like with the beverage in hand, backhands somebody and causes an injury, and they had to go to the hospital. By the time they get to the hospital, the woman who was hit believes that she accidentally hit herself and is thinking that maybe she got it wrong. So you get gaslit for so long through your life, whether it happened as a child with your family. If you grew up in an abusive family, your parents might have done it to you or to each other. And then you're in this other relationship later on, and it happens over and over and over, and it works. It's very effective in scrambling someone's sense of reality, their relationship with themselves, the relationship between themselves and the rest of the world and other people. I don't know what's real anymore. I can't tell what's true and what isn't true. And remember, it's the truth that we're trying to avoid. So gaslighting acts as a way of erasing the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see that a lot in the outreach we've done in my other organization here. And a lot of people in the community are like, well, we don't have trafficking here. It's prostitution.
Yeah. Right.
Really?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Sit on that hotel with me, because she believes she's out there doing this on her own, because keep going all day about that. But. Right. So the voice that is going to be the gaslighting voice will often be the voice of authority. It's going to be the voice of someone who is going to question your expertise, your experience, and really want to squash that and just make sure that it never gets out. They're also going to use that gaslighting in the form of controlling a narrative, and making sure that we're not just gaslighting the person who we're trying to stifle, but then we also leave little breadcrumbs around in a social way to make sure that that person doesn't have a way to verify information. It's quite in depth how gaslighting works. But what gaslighting is not is lying, right? So that's not gaslighting. If somebody, did you cheat on me? No, that's not gaslighting. Mm-hmm. That's just lying. It's just lying. Yeah.
Gaslighting would be,
you have the intent, right? Like, what's happening. You're doing it purposely.
Gaslighting would be, I saw you in bed with the person. I had a camera. I got a picture of it. There was a newspaper next to the bed. I got with a date on it.
Yeah.
And they're saying, it wasn't me. It's the Shaggy song. Wasn't me.
Wasn't
Wasn't
me.
me.
Wasn't me, right?
Right.
So when I say the denial of a shared reality, that's the important piece, is that there is a reality there that someone else has witnessed to the degree that we can say this is certainly the truth. And then we're going to just erase that truth, and it didn't happen. That's not what it was. You saw it wrong. I never said that. You
Right.
certainly did say that. You
Too
absolutely
sensitive,
said
you're
it.
too
I
whatever.
never said that.
What about reactive abuse?
That's a good one. So reactive abuse, you can picture an abused animal that bites, right? So you poke,
Good way of
poke,
putting it,
poke,
yeah.
poke, poke, the animal attacks, right? So reactive abuse is very artful in how, especially when there's people around. So when there's an audience, there'll be this dog whistling type of, activity going on where, one person's saying something to the other person, they're poking, 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 poking. Finally, the person reacts, and now they're in trouble for their reaction. And that the person who is the reactive abuser will love to have video, audio, human witnesses, right? And they will keep a very clear inventory of the bad reactions of it. And then she did this, and then she threw something, and then she called me a name, and then she stormed out, and she peeled away with her car. And yeah, because you pushed her to that. She got there a certain way, like there's a way that we got to the point where we're acting like this. It's not just out of anywhere. Behavior
The
is
belittling and the poking fun and making you the butt of the jokes, and then all of a sudden you blow up, and then you're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So reactive abuse is a big one, and then you picture someone probably is emotionally dysregulated. The target of abuse, the target is emotionally dysregulated. They're probably not getting good sleep. They probably don't have a really great support system, or if they do, they're living a double life, not telling what's going on. And they've been taught, and we have been taught as women, especially, that we're supposed to turn the other cheek and take it and be a servant and be forgiving, right? And then, so we talk ourselves out of our responses often over and over. We swallow it. We override the threat. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then finally blow up, and now you're crazy. Or now you're abusive. Because you finally said something mean. You finally called a name, and now you're the abuser. And then because we're empathic, which means we're ego dystonic, which means we're always questioning and going, am I the problem? Maybe it's me. Is it, you might even believe as the person who's the target that I did do a really bad thing. I did throw that thing. I did call a name.
That brings up something else. And this just came to me too. What I have heard, like in the street outreach and the women I've worked with, and, abuse and in trafficking is, and even years ago in my own situation, but they always go back. Talk about that. Please talk about that, because I hear that so much. Well, why'd she stay? She could have left. Please talk about that so people can understand why.
Well, we know through research that on average, it takes someone 7 attempts. Someone who does finally make it out, it on average takes 7 attempts.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
A lot.
I mean, so that means there's people that do a lot more than that. To try
It's
to
a
get
lot
away.
of like second guessing yourself. Am I the problem? What should I do to be working on myself? Is this, and you kind of get sucked back in. I've got a family, I've got kids.
I can't fix, I'm using gendered language, and I apologize. But I can't fix him, but I can fix me.
Yeah. He
won't go to therapy, but I will. And it becomes a project. And then if you try to talk to somebody about, have you tried therapy? Relationships take work. Marriage takes work. Well, your father and I, we fought too, but we're still together. You just got to stick with it, right? So you hear all these things like that. Well, relationships are hard, and you got to forgive and be a good Christian woman. Christian women forgive, and all those sorts of things. But we got coercive control going on. We have literal brainwashing. We have a cult of 2 with 1 cult leader. and one follower, and probably a family of minions or followers, right? So it becomes a neurobiological situation. This is a brain-based circumstance. This is not about willpower. It's not about what someone would want to do and just decides not to. It's that they literally cannot, and our society does not have support structures in place adequately, not even anywhere near adequately close enough to assist and help people. We see what happens to people who speak up about abuse. We see what happens when someone calls out an abuser and what happens to them. So, I mean, I could go on and on about the reasons why people don't leave. And that's what's so funny is that why are we asking that question? Why doesn't she leave? Why are we asking the question, why the is that going on in the first place that she would need to leave? And why isn't someone doing something about it? And how many times do the cops have to show up before someone's going to do the right thing, or it's going to take care of something's going to have to happen?
And the one thing that I've been told over and over and over till I'm like, if I hear it again, well, she's an adult. She can make her own decisions. Now, when you're dealing in with women or people who are in active addiction, like I've worked with a lot, no, she can't. Not in that moment, no, she can't.
That's a good point, Beth, because substance use is also a factor in something that is used to disarm and disable and control someone. And hey, you know what? If I'm in that situation, I welcome it. I want to escape. Get me out of here. I'll drink that. I'll smoke that. Yeah, heck yeah. This is a horrible life. I don't want to be here. So then you've got those kinds of things going on. So somebody who is experiencing reactive abuse, maybe we've got a substance use situation or a self-harm situation thing going on. She looks crazy. She won't leave. She's choosing to stay. She's a grown-up. She's making a decision on her own.
One of the things, one of the girls that I worked with, and this has been a few years ago, we had gotten her out of a place and gotten her into a safe house, and she was there, I don't know, a couple of months, very abused, and we had been in the hospital, very abused, and working on some longer term treatment for her, inpatient treatment, and thought everything was going really well, and things were, you know, she was actually happy and safe. And I don't know, within probably, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, I got a call one day that she's gone. She's gone. She walked out, she left. I'm like, oh. A couple weeks later, I was able to connect with her on a message, and I'm like, hey, what happened? I mean, I'm not mad at you. I mean, I'll still help you, but I mean, just help me understand where you're coming from. Because, and her comment was, you know, I know everything you were doing. I was learning to trust you, which scared me. And basically what she was saying was where we were going to help her get to, she didn't know anybody, and people that she'd learned to trust in the past had hurt her. And I know over here is really bad, but I know how to survive this. I don't know if I can survive where you are. And man, that just hit me in the face. Like, wow, I've used that example so many times. Mm-hmm. And again, yeah, maybe that over there is bad, but it's a house. Their bills are getting paid, maybe not, but you know, things are getting taken care of. The kids are, you know, here.
It's they're not going to,
yeah, right? It's such a vicious cycle. And then the kids are seeing it, and they're seeing how that, and that's normal to them. It's a vicious cycle, but I get it. I mean, I was there at one point too, but I mean, I understand it.
And maybe, you know, if I could just rewind just kind of the conversation a little bit, as far as you talked about like the minions and the, you know, they're often called the flying monkeys that have kind of, you know, been a part of this whole cycle. And how does that play out? I mean, you know, using your kids, you know, flying monkeys, family members, mothers, cousins, brothers, whoever, you know, are part of this toxic cycle. But, you know, can you talk about that?
We can look at, say, famous cases of abusive people, right? That we finally learned. Bill Cosby, for example, Michael Jackson, right? You know, people that we thought were like good guys that were doing good things. And as it turns out, they were not. And despite the evidence, how many people rallied to support them and, you know, are offended that someone would railroad his poor reputation. People are ruining their lives. And, you know, no one, people rally to support abusers on the regular. You know, it's really sickening to watch. We're seeing a lot of that happen right now, where clearly abusive, narcissistic, psychopathic people who have big positions of power get away with murder, get away with saying horrible things and doing horrible things. And someone's right there behind them going, don't you be mean to him. Don't you be mean to them, right? So when we're talking about, excuse me, when we're talking about the flying monkeys, right, and how somebody cultivates this sort of following, right, is by controlling the narrative and smear campaigns, divide and conquer. This is the psychological warfare you mentioned at the beginning of the episode here, that these are things that go on in agencies of our government, right? Like psychological warfare happens in war, but there are tactics that are effective and that are known to be effective. Disinformation, we know that. Repetition, we know that, right? We know that we separate the people from their resources and isolate them. We know we strip them down so that they feel shame, right? We know that we starve them. We also keep them from sleeping, right? There's so many things that go on in psychological warfare that you can see in war, or say in a concentration camp, and how you have prisoners and how you keep them compliant, how you get them to tell you what you want them to tell you, all of the things that go on. CIA, NSA, FBI.
What you're talking about also sounds like trafficking.
Right. Yeah, but it happens between two people in the privacy of their own home or in a family where the same stuff's going on, and you divide and conquer. Abusive parents, abusive mothers do this really well with siblings. We find out that the mom makes sure that those siblings don't get along. We make sure that the mom makes sure to sabotage any healthy chance of a healthy relationship the child might have. You bring a new friend home, that person's not gonna be a friend for long. All that is psychological warfare. Flying monkeys may not even know that they're flying monkeys. I have a really great example of somebody who started dating this guy, and man, he had this terrible ex, and she was awful, and she took the kids from him. And he loves his kids and he wants to see them, and he doesn't understand how this all happened. And she is a saver and a fixer and a helper. And this is a horrible woman he was married to, all these things she did to him. So she actually became his right hand, helper in getting access to the children, and categorized this ex as being the abuser based on the stories that she was hearing. Fast forward, guess what? He starts abusing her and her kids. And then she realizes that she believed him, and actually she was just helping to perpetuate the same abuse on this other poor woman and those kids.
And we see that all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And the thing with all the trafficking and stuff, that work that I've done over the years, what really stood out to me when I really started learning about it was the coercive control part. And coercive control was one of the three things, force, fraud, and coercion, that defines trafficking as criminal. But yet in the Ohio Revised Code, coercive control is not part of our domestic violence laws.
That's a problem.
That's a huge problem. That's one of the things that we're working on, which you're more than welcome to jump on that bandwagon, but we are going to try to get this changed. There are 9 other states in this country that have changed those laws, and we are working to try and get that done here, because there is more. I said this years ago, and I've talked to so many people that I'd rather been just punched in the face every day than screw with my head the way they did, because that takes forever. 37 years later, still messes with me sometimes.
I have a video on my YouTube channel about that. I've heard that so many times myself that I made these short little videos over the time when I would hear, common things happening over and over, and like, I need to make this video. But yeah, wishing for physical violence is a common thing. Like, would be so much clearer, wouldn't it, if I had just a black eye or a broken arm? But here's the deal with that. It might be clearer to other people because they see the evidence, but and I know that sometimes that goalpost, we keep drawing the line, we keep drawing, if this happens, then I'm going to leave. If this happens, then I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't necessarily change when the physical violence happens. And they're very good at grooming and getting us used to something, right? So they don't just punch you in the face out of nowhere. First, there's going to be a pinch or a poke, or right, it's going to start off with something else that then leads into it slowly over time. But yeah, I mean, coercive control is something that people don't understand how it works, and yet it's probably the linchpin that it answers that question that you asked earlier, Beth, which had to do with people staying. It's the coercive control factor. It's if you leave, what's going to happen? All these flying monkeys, your friends, your family, your entire social circle, the community, the nation, your fans, whatever, right? We can't have them think badly of us or of our group, right? You're going to make us all look bad. I mean, coercive control has so many elements to it as well. It's not just financial, and it's not just sexual, and it's not just about geography. It's about the psychology of it and getting someone to believe then moving forward that they have to ride the line. They have to walk on these eggshells, because if they don't, that their life's going to be destroyed. While they're living in the mess, they're living in the destruction, they will believe that it could get worse. And when you see how bad someone can be, you believe them when they say they're going to do something that's bad. I'm going to hurt the animals.
Yeah.
You love your dog. Well, that dog might not be here when you get home. Good luck finding them. That's coercive control. All of those threats. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times that's stuff you can't see and the courts don't recognize it.
Right. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Mandy, what about how these abusive people use the children and parentify or kind of make them carry out the abuse? Is that something that you can
right? Okay, so we have alienation that takes place where an abusive person will enlist the psychology and the help of the children in some ways to punish their actual target, right? Getting into the kids' heads and filling them with things that are not age appropriate, also making the children feel responsible for their emotional well-being. And here's something, maybe at another time we can talk about the spectrum of abusive personalities, right? So there's a spectrum here, and some of them aren't that bad, right? But they're just bad enough. Yeah. And those will be the types that finally the mom's like, all right, I can't do this anymore. He's not punching me. He didn't, he's doing all these horrible things, but this is enough. I'm slowly eroding as a person. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even live for myself. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm leaving. And your mother or whomever, and then goes to the kids. Oh, this is happening to me. Your mom's doing this to me, or so-and-so is doing this to me, and I'll be okay. I'll be okay. But I just wanted you kids to know that I'm going to be here for you, no matter what they do to me, no matter what the court tries to take you from me. And your mom's going to try, but I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to still be. And the kids see that the parent needs help and that the parent is hurting, right? That's like a mild version. Is just when the parent makes the child be a grown-up or a therapist or a social worker or the spouse of them just whining and crying about their situation, not telling them the truth about it, pointing the finger over at somebody else, right? And then the kids believe it. Then they come home to the parent who has the rules, has the structure, tells the truth, stands in the truth. And they think that that's the bad guy now.
Yep. Yeah.
And then
That's
it's
frustrating.
very easy to continue
Yeah.
to turn
Yeah.
their minds in that way. And it's hard to put your finger on because one is acting like a victim and the other one who's actually the victim. Here's the kicker. Here's the kicker here with alienation. And it's so frustrating. The non-alienating parent will be the one who makes sure that they are not alienating. They will say to me, what could I say to my kids, if anything at all? Because I don't want to put any of this on them. Is there a way to discuss this with them? Like, I'm making sure that I don't say anything bad about their other parent. I'm making sure that they that I keep that to myself. I'm not even letting them see me cry. I'm trying to act like everything, like I am not alienating and I don't want to alienate. That's the non-alienating parent every single time.
And that's the parent who kept everything private during the relationship to protect the kids to begin with.
Exactly. And probably stayed for the kids.
Yeah.
That's why they're still, one of the big reasons why they're still around is they didn't want to break up the family, destroy the family, right? So now we have a situation where you have someone who's the actual alienator who, if they're attempting those things, let's say it doesn't go their way, right? And they don't win at it. Now they're the one that's been alienated.
Yep.
But no, you haven't been alienated. This is a natural response, and these are consequences of your behaviors, is that now the kids don't feel comfortable with you because they saw you slam that door. They saw you kick the dog. They heard what you said to their mother, and they don't feel comfortable with you. You forgot their birthday. You don't come to any of their games, but all of a sudden you want 50-50 custody. You don't know who their doctor is. You don't know how old the kids are, who their teachers are, or nothing. The kids will know that. And they may not be interested in spending time with somebody because of the things that they have experienced. And instead of it being called estrangement, now the non-alienating parent is being accused of alienation, but really they're just having a natural reaction to the jerk that they don't want to be around anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we could go on about this. This has been such a good talk. Oh,
I know. I feel like there's like 100 more questions of like, I need to ask you all this stuff. And like, I would love for you to come back, Mandy, and maybe we do like just a segment on this, specific topic or whatever, because I feel like there's such a mental fog that when you leave a abusive relationship that you're scrambling for what's going on. What are the words? What's happening to me? Why is the family attacking me? Why is this happening? Or why are my kids not speaking to me? The laundry list of things that happen to someone who decides to leave a, toxic, abusive marriage. And the definitions are so spot on. And I can't tell you how many times I referred back to, your information. And we will make sure that at the end of this episode and on our website that we put your information and how to connect with you, because I feel like it's so important for people to reach out to someone who knows. I mean, someone who has a lived experience and a professional experience of able to kind of strip it down for them and say, this is what's happening. I see the pattern. This is these abusers and these toxic people have a certain pathology that is like, we've been doing these podcasts and we've been talking, I'm in a couple of different groups, but the pathology is so much the same. It's like a blueprint, like, this is going to happen, and it's kind of frightening out there how many people are very sick like that.
I really like that part of this because, so many of narcissistic abusers are narcissistically unique and they think that they're special, but they are not.
Right.
Not special, not unique at all. Cookie cutter.
And
Couldn't
it's
be
not
less
as rare.
special.
It's not as rare as what some people think.
Not rare, not
rare at
special,
all.
not unique,
Not at all.
Dark color.
Not at all.
Well, thank you for being on today. This has been amazing. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be talking very, very soon. But just wanted to close out for today. And this is Stronger Roots. And the reason that we do this is to help other people who are in these situations so that you can understand what you're going through and that you are okay and that you're not losing your mind and you're not crazy. Things are happening and there is a way to understand it and to move yourself out of that situation so you are safe. Again, this is Stronger Roots, and thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Mandy, so much.